Ladies and gentlemen, aviation enthusiasts and curious minds alike, welcome to the thrilling mini-series that will take you soaring through the skies called What Makes This Plane Great? In this episode, we're going to be talking about one of the greatest fighter planes of all time. That plane is the American single-engine fighter, the North American P-51 Mustang. So, what makes this aircraft that was easy to build and fly great? Well, the most well-known thing that makes Mustang great was that it became the bomber escort fighter that Allied bombers so desperately needed. Mustang had the range to stay with the bombers all the way into Germany and on the way home. The Mustang was a fast, manoeuvrable high-altitude fighter that was usually better than any Axis fighter it came up against, which made a crucial difference as Allied bomber losses decreased and at the same time Axis fighter losses increased, whether it was escorting B-17s and B-24s over Europe or escorting B-29s over Japan. One important thing about the P-51 was that it helped establish air superiority for the Allies in the war, which in the long run helped us win World War II. Not to mention that the P-51 could compete with the German Me-262 jet fighter. Another great thing about the Mustang was that not only was it a superb dogfighter, it was also used for a number of other roles too. The first Mustangs, which actually had Allison engines in them, had great low-altitude performance and performed a number of low-altitude roles, such as airborne artillery, air support, skip bombing and tactical reconnaissance. The Allison engine Mustangs were very useful for the Americans when they were trying to march their way through Burma in 1943 and played an important role in clearing enemy posts for the US troop advances. The early A-36 Invader Apache variants of the Mustang were actually built as a dive bomber, but even these dive bomber variants were able to score a number of aerial kills. Me being British, I do love the fact that the Mustang was first originally built for the RAF, and it was us British that first called it the Mustang, and more importantly, it was also us British that came up with the idea to try a Merlin engine in the Mustang airframe. Another great thing about the P-51 Mustang is longevity, as they were used by a whole number of air forces all over the world for years after World War II. The Dominican Republic Air Force were the last nation to use Mustangs, with some remaining in service until the mid-80s. It was a Mustang from the El Salvador Air Force that took part in the last aerial combat between piston-engined aircraft. This was in the brief 1969 football war, where an El Salvadorian Mustang was shot down by a F-4U Corsair from the Honduras Air Force. One country that really loved the P-51 was Australia. A bit later in World War II, they replaced the rather outdated P-40 Kitty Hawks in the Royal Australian Air Force, and they actually stayed in Australian service till about 1960. Australian manufacturer Commonwealth Aircraft Corporation even built their own Mustangs under licence, and Australian Mustangs did serve in the Korean War. After World War II, P-51 Mustangs were widely used in a few different roles in both Korean and Arab-Israeli wars. In the Korean War, the F-51 Mustangs were more used in the ground attack roles, which it weren't really suited for due to the vulnerability of its liquid-cooled engine. But it's worth mentioning that Mustangs did get a number of aerial kills in the Korean War. And also in the Korean War, you had the F-82 Twin Mustang. In the Arab-Israeli wars, a few P-51s were smuggled into Israel for their air force, and they fighted alongside a number of aircraft, like the Avia S-199, and when they weren't shooting down enemy aircraft, Israeli Mustangs would be destroying ground targets, with a few Mustangs modified to cut telephone and telegraph wires with their wings in very low passes, and when they cut them wires, that caused massive interruptions to communications in Egypt. So, to conclude, the P-51 Mustang was a superb fighter plane with great range. It was also very widely used and could be quite a versatile and adaptable aircraft too. Even though if you want to use a piston-engined aircraft for ground attack, You'd be better off using an aircraft with a more durable air-cooled engine, like a P-47 Thunderbolt, Corsair or FW-190 for example. And that's it for this thrilling journey through the skies. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell so you can stay up to date with my aviation content, etc. Check out the 2 videos at the end, all my CD reviews or even the playlist I've created. Cheers.